additional awardees a couple more moments, maybe we can just take a moment to have the Maryland State Department of Housing and Community Development to introduce themselves, to give people a couple more minutes. Just quick reminder, this presentation will be recorded and you will be able to receive a copy of the presentation a little later. I will start off. My name is Larry Brown. I'm the Assistant Director for the Baltimore region for the State Department of Housing and Community Development, where we deal with the state revitalization programs. I'll now hand it over to Kate Howard.
Hey everyone, good morning. I'm Kate Howard. I'm the program officer for the Baltimore team, and my region is Northeast Baltimore City and County, and I will toss it over to Jessica.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica DeGain, and I am the project manager for Region 1, which is Northwest Baltimore City and County. And I'll pass it over to Erin.
Hi, thanks, Jessica. I'm Erin Lavitt. I'm the project manager for Southwest Baltimore City and County and Northern Anne Arundel County. I'll pass it over to Sarah Kim if she's on the call.
Yeah, well, Sarah Kim, she's the project manager for Southeast Baltimore and Baltimore County. Unfortunately, she will not be joining us today, but now I'll pass it over to our other assistant directors, Garland Thomas, as well as Olivia Ceccarelli.
Good morning, I'm Garland Thomas. I'm the assistant director for the statewide team. I'll pass it to Olivia.
Good morning. My name is Olivia Ceccarelli McGonigal. I'm Assistant Director for Policy Planning and Preservation for State Revitalization Programs. Thanks.
Okay, and we actually have Anjali too. I'll let Anjali have a moment to introduce herself, if you don't mind.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Anjali Holt. I am the IP Quality Assurance Specialist for this system that you guys use for, we call it IGX. I believe you guys call it Portal. And so any lockouts or anything like that, or the actual system itself being worked is what we work on. And I'm part of what we call the A team for that.
Thanks, Anjali. And I see Alex as well. Alex, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Alex Laham. I am on the Policy Preservation and Planning team, and I help our team out with data collection mostly. So you'll see I'll be walking you through the project impact data sheet that we'll get to in a bit. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks again for the introductions. Thanks for your patience. And now we're going to proceed and get started with our FY26 awardee training presentation. Again, as already mentioned, this webinar will be recorded and you will be able to receive a copy shortly after the presentation has ended.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm still here. Scheduling for you.
So, as I mentioned, the presentation will be recorded. So if you'll be so kind to mute yourself, we will have.
Hey, Larry, you got muted.
Okay, so that will help. So happy Monday, everybody. Again, we're going to get started with our FY26 training, awardee training. This training and presentation will be recorded and you will be able to receive a copy of the presentation shortly after we conclude. We will have 2 question and answer sections, one after module A1 and the second after module 3. So again, if you do have questions, please drop it into the chat, and during those different breakout question and answer sections, we will have a moment to address those. The Division of Neighborhood Revitalization, we work with local partners to bring new investment and vitality to Maryland's core communities. We primarily offer some loans, primarily grants and technical assistance programs to local governments, nonprofit organizations, and some small businesses. This slide is just a breakdown of how we actually assign project managers to different regions throughout the entire state of Maryland. You had the pleasure of being introduced to the project managers for the statewide team. Again, for Region 1, that is Jessica DeGaines. Region 2 is Kate Howard. Region 3 is Sarah Kim, and Region 4 is Aaron Lavitt. And as we go to the next slide, it actually gets into a little bit more detail for as what specific regions they actually cover, along with their specific contact information. So again, we will have an opportunity to address any specific questions that you have in regards to the award training, the award agreement process. But if you have additional questions at a later time, you can feel free to reach directly out to your project manager. In addition to that, we have Melissa Archer, who is our historic preservation officer. So she helps with reviewing Maryland Historical Trust review process. So again, all State Revitalization Program grants are required to go through Maryland Historical Trust review if they are capital projects. Even if your project is not located in a designated historical district, you still are required to go through the historical preservation review, even if it's simply that your project will have no adverse effect. But we're required to have all capital projects reviewed by our historical preservation officer. Tynan Stevenson, he is with our sustainable community programs. So again, at least one time or another, you will come in direct contact with Tynan when it's required to have your sustainable communities refreshed, updated, or renewed. And lastly, you had the opportunity to be introduced by Alex Liam, the project manager that does a lot of stuff for the PPP team with Olivia. And she'll actually go over the impact data sheet a little later on, as well as she works closely with the KPI spreadsheet. So now we're going to get into the eligibility and requirements, and I'm going to pass it over to Aaron Lavitt for this portion.
Hello, thank you so much for being with us today. So State Revitalization Program's eligibility and requirements, like Larry was saying, the vast majority of the funding we have is capital. That means bricks and sticks, land, structures, bricks and mortar. Generally, we would like the things we do to have a 15-year shelf life. So that could be buying a property, that could be construction drawings, that could be actual construction work, could be site development, like leveling a site and preparing it to lay foundation. Could be demolition, could be interior demolition, could be, rehabilitation. It's a fairly flexible use, and we've included this guidebook as a reference. However, we always, if you're just not sure if something counts as capital, we would ask you to just ask your project manager. They're well equipped to help you with that. Operating, and we have a very small amount of operating money, is, generally staff salaries, feasibility planning studies, could be maintenance, maybe some landscaping that's not going to have that 15-year shelf life, could be carrying costs or property, such as, taxes or insurance, marketing, that sort of thing. Again, we don't have a lot of operating money, and I'm sure if you have it, you know about it. And if you're not sure if something counts, just ask your project manager. And you can see also here that only 2 of our programs actually have operating money. So if you have a community legacy, an SDF, a SEED, or a Maryland Facade Improvement Program award, you don't have any operating money. You have a capital only award. And again, if you have a Bernie or a net award with with operating dollars, I'm sure you know who you are and you have an idea of how you'd like to spend it. Just touch base with your project manager. As Larry touched on, and as Tynan oversees, projects do have to be within a sustainable community. You should use this mapper to confirm. That is also something your project manager will be checking for each addresses. Bernie programs also particularly do have to be located within a specific burning area. It's not horseshoes, cliffs doesn't count. So make sure if you have a Bernie award, you're staying within your Bernie area, particularly if you have a program where you may not know all the addresses yet. So another requirement for all our awards is site control, which is, you know, why do you have permission to do the work you're doing? So that could be because you own the property. It could be because you have an agreement with the property owner, such as an MOU or a letter of support, a lease, that sort of thing. And if you have multiple pass-throughs, you might have, you know, multiple documents to submit, as the next slide will go into. Again, these are not, it's not an exhaustive list, but generally, if you have one or more of these, you will have site control, and we won't have a problem dispersing funds or having your award pass legal review. And again, as Larry touched on, Maryland Historical Trust Review is required. We highly suggest that you get this review before starting work, as if you don't pass Maryland Historical Trust Review, we may not be able to reimburse you. So it's always good to have a check-in, even if you think you already have this permission, even if you know, if you have a different scope of the project, or if you've changed what you want to do with it from now to application, definitely touch base with your project manager. And our historic preservation officer will definitely want to work with you and help you complete your project within those requirements. This is the information you do need to submit to your historic preservation officer. Again, generally, this would be emailed to your project manager, who would then make sure you have all the information and forward it to the historic preservation officer. You should have, again, the project name, the address, the award number, the 4 photographs, scope of work, and also if you have a project which has federal funds or which has received Maryland Historical Trust tax credits, please do let us know, as we may be able to just use their findings instead of doing another historical trust review. Special conditions are generally going to be listed in your award agreement, Exhibit A. You know, they could be requiring the certificate of good standing for award execution. They could be site control requirements. Could be loan requirements if you're one of those few who have a loan grant combo. Just be sure to review your award agreement and make sure you can comply before proceeding. And now I will pass it over to,
Thanks,
sorry.
Erin. I got it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It isn't.
You're good. It's Monday morning. So I will take you through the award life cycle. So right now you all are in the yellow box, which is agreement drafting and execution. And so we can go to the next slide really quickly. So in the award agreement, the first 13, 14 pages of it are standard legal language. And that's the same boilerplate that we've used since time immemorial. So, and the ones that are actually pertain to your agreement are the Exhibit A, which is the project description, which has the addresses, what the funds can be used for, and any special conditions that we might be putting on your project. Exhibit B is the budget, and that's where you'll see where what funding sources or what line items you can use it for. And then Exhibit C is our timeline, and there are 3 dates that every one of these grant agreements will have on it. There's the commencement date, there's the completion date, and the final report due date, which is the life cycle of the grant agreement is 2 years. So all of these have until 2028 to be finished. And then I'm going to turn it over to Alex Laham really fast.
Thanks, Kate. So I'll just quickly take you through the project impact data sheet. You'll see it has its own dedicated page and is used to quantify the results of your project or program. So when you applied to SRP funds, you filled out this project impact data sheet based on what you were seeking to accomplish with the requested funds. So for example, If you applied to the Maryland Facade Improvement Program for $100,000 worth of facade improvements, you might have entered your plan to improve 10 facades with those funds. Now that your application was awarded, we're asking you to update your answer based on the awarded funds. So using that same example, if you applied for $100,000 for 10 facade improvements, but you were only awarded $50,000, you would update your answer to 5 facades, for example. Your regional project manager will be in touch with you regarding this during the award agreement drafting stage to confirm these updates. And then going forward, you're going to be expected to update your progress toward this goal of 5 facades in your quarterly reports and up until your final report. As you know, there are multiple questions in the sheet and not all will apply to you, so only answer those that do. We can go on to the next slide.
All right, so I will take you through the award agreement sort of drafting and execution, just sort of the process. So right now, since we've awarded you the funds, we are now working on getting the agreement drafted. And this is when we are probably reaching out to you saying, hey, such and such a document that you provided at the time of application has now expired. And the main ones that we're likely reaching out to you for are the corporate diversity addendum, the charitable registration, sometimes a corporate resolution change, or your good standing with SDAT. And so we will be reaching out for those documents as we're drafting. And once we have the documents from you, we've drafted it, it goes to our legal team for initial review. And so as they're reviewing it, they'll let us know if anything doesn't make any sense. So if for some reason something we're missing in the site control documents, they notice it, we'll also reach out for that to you all at this time as well. But once it's cleared by them, you will get an email from the portal system saying that your award agreement is ready for your signature. And this is also when we will be sending you an email from ourselves saying, hey, here's your impact data sheet. Can you confirm these changes? This is also where if you're looking at the budget and you were awarded less than you applied for, and we sort of put everything into the rehabilitation line item and you needed and you applied for X amount in A&E, this is sort of when we can talk back and forth with each other about how you actually want to see the budget written. And this is also within reason, because a lot of the times we are funding the portion of the project that we recommended funding for. But obviously there's always room to talk it through. And then once you have signed it, you've emailed the impact data sheet back to us. You have a witness sign it, you will upload it to the portal. And we will go ahead and move it forward. The legal team just does one final check, sees if there's been any changes, and then it goes to our secretary for signature and execution. And then once it's executed, you all are good to start working through the MHT process, and your quarterly reports will start at the following quarterly report after your execution. If you go to the next slide. This is just sort of what I said, just with all words here, instead of visuals. And the one thing that I didn't mention is that you have 60 days from the time that the award agreement was sent to you for signature for you all to sign it and return it back to us, unless you reach out to us and say, hey, our legal team needs some time to review it. We can work through some timeline extensions, but you do need to be in contact with us. You can't just let it sort of languish there because we don't want to risk anybody losing any funds. So we just want to make sure we're always in communication with each other. We can jump to the next slide. All right, so this is sort of the attachment section that I was talking about. This is where we need to make sure we have a certificate of good standing from you all. So the printout or the screen print from SDAT saying good standing that you used for your application, that was great for your application. But for the actual execution of the award agreement, we need you all to actually purchase that certificate and send it to us. And you can put it into the portal under your organization uploads, or you can send it back with your application, and I'll show you where you can upload that in IGX in a second. The charitable registration, this is one that's been getting a little bit trickier because you all will apply for your renewal, and sometimes it's taking a lot longer for them to change it from pending to current. And so one way we sort of started working around this is to have you all submit send us your application with any proof of payments that you had to do that renewal application. That works for now, and we'll probably start adding this to the request for payment. It's just making sure everybody's up to good standing at all times for request for payment, but that's future looking. But that's one way. If you see that your child registration is pending and you know that you've already done your renewal, please reach out to one of us and we can figure out a way to work through it or give you a contact at the Secretary of State office to see if you can figure out where yours is in the queue for review. The next thing that I mentioned is the corporate diversity addendum. This is the same corporate diversity addendum you have to use to get your good standing with SDAT anyway. So you should have an up-to-date one that's newer than the one that you submitted with your application. So we'll just be asking for that. And then any other site control, if you have additional site control that you want to submit, these are the times where we're gonna ask for additional documents. All right, next slide. So this is where you're gonna submit the signed agreement. So this is now what the page looks like in IGX. You'll see where it says award agreement, award signed agreement. That upload is that's where you're gonna upload the actual signed agreement, not just the signature page, the entire document. And make sure that if you're photocopying it or scanning it in, that you can see all of the words, not just like choppy pages. If some of the pages are backwards or like upside down, that's fine. We'll figure it out. But if we have to be able to see every single page, one through the end, clearly without any words cut off. Below there is where I was saying, if you have any additional documents, so the certificate of good standing or any other items that we were missing, you can put them in this section of the portal, and that's where we'll look for them, unless you send us an email otherwise. And as usual, as you've all heard before, make sure once you've uploaded, you go to the top and you hit that save button. And then the next step is you'll go back to the menu side on the left-hand side of the screen, and you'll make sure you hit under status options, submit signed agreement. A lot of the times, once you upload the agreement, you think you're finished. We have that one extra step just to make sure, and you put your initials and say, yes, I'm submitting my signed agreement, whatever you want to say in the dialog box. And then you'll get an email saying you've submitted it. We'll get an email saying that you've submitted it, and we'll all be good to go there. And so now we'll go to the next slide, and that will conclude that little training module, and let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Kate. So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat, especially as we're going through the presentation. There might be certain things that jump out at you and you might have questions about. Instead of trying to keep it in your mind, just drop it in the chat so we make sure that we have an opportunity to address those. And as we're waiting for a couple questions, I do want to just double back on a couple things. Aaron went over the details of the process for Maryland Historical Trust Review, which is required for all of our capital projects. One thing I want to emphasize is please make sure that you start the process before you start your project. The people at our partners at Maryland Historical Trust and our Historical Preservation Officer doesn't really like when capital projects are started before the actual review process begins. So while we're in the drafting of the agreement process, you've already been notified that you have been awarded. This is a great time to make sure that you have your scope of work, your before photos, and the specifics of your project packaged and submitted to your project manager so we can begin to start the review process simultaneously while we are drafting up your grant agreement. So as soon as your agreement is fully executed, you'll now be in position to be able to draw down your funds. I also want to mention again, I know this is a lot of information. Kate went over a lot of the specifics about the award life cycle and the whole nine. You will be receiving a copy of this recorded presentation so you can look at it at your leisure. In addition to that, your project managers will be available. If you find yourself uncertain or have questions about anything specifically, don't hesitate to reach out to your project managers. In addition to that, if it's certain legal documents that you need updated or you need and that is required that is currently missing, your project manager will reach out to you to notify you of those specific things. So we're here to provide technical assistance and support as much as possible. to help you be successful in your project, be successful. I think we do have one question as we prepare to move to the next portion of our presentation. Okay, a couple questions. Okay, it says, if we are working in collaboration with another school within UMB, do we both have to submit documentations, or should there be one agreement for covering both school projects? So if I just using this as an example based on the way I'm reading it, if there is a C application submitted to UMB, because again, for file C grant funding, the only eligible applicants are, we call them EDS or MED. So it's colleges and universities as well as hospitals. So if they are the applicant and they receive funding and they actually are working with local stakeholders, nonprofits or for-profit entities, it goes back to the point I think Aaron mentioned in regards to having some type of memorandum of understanding, the MOU, just to show the partnership and the connectivity between the actual applicant and the community partner. So you just need some legal nexus showing how the two intertwine. For example, one might have owned the site. The university or college might actually have the award agreement and the grant. You got to show the connectivity between those two. Or if it's a JV, a joint venture project, you just need to show some type of legal nexus of how the different entities work together. But we only primarily need it from our actual awardee. The awardee then will have to get any additional information that they may need from their community partners, if that makes sense. If that didn't answer your question, please send a follow-up. The next question we have is, if we already have approval for Maryland Historical Trust from a previous rehab phase, do we need to get a new one? Nothing has changed. If you already receive Maryland Historical Trust review, that should be sufficient. I would just send a copy of that to your project manager for them to be able to review, and the historical preservation officer to be able to review. 9 times out of 10, you should be golden. However, sometimes MHT can expire. So we might need it to just be refreshed. So if you do have a copy, just send it to your project manager, let us review it, and then we can just confirm if everything is still valid and sufficient. And I think Olivia would like to chime in. Please do.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to confirm, as long as there is no change in the scope of work, again, you can always send it to us just to give the double check. But if there are any changes in the scope of work, you'll have to resend, and it'll have to go through our process again. So thank you. I'll send it back to you, Larry.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. And next question is, do we submit the MHT review materials directly to the project manager or through the portal? You can email it directly to your project manager. Again, just putting in your subject line, MHT review for the specific project name and your award ID number. Last question before we start the second half of our presentation. It says, if we have a home ownership assistance program, such as down payment assistance program or appraisal gap, it says, in some cases, the home rehab is already in progress or finished. How should MHT be handled? I would say, again, let's start now. If you already know that you have a homeowners assistance program, let's get those specific blocks or addresses submitted to your project manager for review. However, in a lot of cases, when it comes to like down payment closing cost assistance and these small type of programs, it shouldn't really be an adverse effect, because a lot of these rehabs are minor rehabs. And if it's just like minor or like what we call like maintenance repair, is 9 times out of 10 won't be an issue. Like, for example, if we helping a legacy homeowner to repair a porch that's collapsing and falling apart. We're pretty much just having contractors go out and repair or do maintenance on existing structure and just redoing it back to a similar end product as it was initially. So in those instances, it shouldn't really be a major cause for alarm. However, we encourage right now, if you know that you've been awarded for FY26, package your MHT documentation for your projects so that review process can begin. Thank you for your questions. Again, if you have any additional questions, please drop them in the chat. We do have one more opportunity for questions and answers, and we'll address them at that time. At this time, we're going to hand it over to Jessica DeGaines to talk about awardees' expectations.
Good morning, everyone. We are going to touch on awardee expectations next. Award management is basically what happens after Secretary Day has signed your award agreement. This is where you're going to start requesting financial disbursements, and this is also where your quarterly reports are due. We're going to touch on that in a little bit more. Also monitoring, the project manager may choose to visit the site of the project. This is where you can discuss any issues that may arise, and so we provide technical assistance. And a work closeout. This is the final reporting process, where the final reporting process is happening. Think about it as a brief exit interview. Next slide, please. We're going to talk about quarterly reports. Quarterly reports, quarterly progress reports are due on July 1st, October 1st, January 1st, and April 1st. And the final report is due within 45 days of project completion. The project should be completed in 2 years of the agreement execution date. At least 50% of the award funds should be drawn by the first anniversary of the award execution. That means within the first year. Payment request, we highly encourage everyone to sign up for electronic funds transfer rather than paper checks, as that paper checks may delay your project timelines, and we definitely do not want that. Maryland Historical Trust determination must be completed, as Larry said, before the work starts. Next slide, please. Provide any additional documents of information, including project metrics and address level information when requested. The organization should be in good standing with SDOT and have an up-to-date charitable registration as well. If you run into any issues regarding this, please contact your project manager, as we are able to offer any adjustments when needed. Records should be kept for at least 3 years after close of the award, unless the award is a loan or grant loan combination, in which case documents must be maintained for the duration of the loan term. Next slide, please. Program expectations. Requests for payments are processed and dispersed approximately within 45 days of approval by the Controller's Office. We provide technical assistance related to project ideas, sustainable community planning, sustainable communities planning, general neighborhood revitalization improvements, and statewide best practices. We can also advise on agreement questions such as eligible expenses, modifications, requests. We want to help your community. Next slide, please. For requests for payments, all requests for payments must be submitted through the DHED online portal. A request for payment must have certain requirements before it is approved. Number one, you must be current in your quarterly reporting. Requests for payments will not be processed if reporting is delinquent. Each request for payment must include complete and appropriate supporting documentation that clearly demonstrates the expense was incurred, paid, and is allowable under the award. If you are unsure as to what is allowed, you can check Exhibit A of your agreement, and always you can reach out to your project manager to to get clarity as to what is allowed under your award. Expenses that are not explicitly included in the agreement are not eligible for reimbursement. What is appropriate supporting documentation for requests for payments? Usually this is invoices, receipts, proof of payment, including canceled checks or wire confirmation, executed contracts, sales documentation such as HUD ones, payroll, or general ledger records when operating funds are included as part of the award. Before we can process a request for payment, a complete MHT review and approval must be on record, as Larry mentioned. If you are unsure if an MHT review applies to your specific award, please contact your regional project manager. Site control documentation also must be provided before any request for payment is approved. Next slide, please. We're going to talk about EFT vendor setup. As I said prior, we highly encourage you to sign up for electronic payments. The EFT enrollment is handled by the Estate's Controller's Office, not the program or DHED. You should follow the Controller's EFT instructions to ensure compliance with the state payment requirements. A complete EFT package includes 3 items: GAD X10 form, the bank verification such as a voided check or bank letter with routing and account information, and a W-9 confirming the legal entity and federal employer number. The full package must be submitted directly to the Controller's Office using the email or fax listed on the slide. If additional documentation is requested, I suggest you contact the Controller's Office to see what the issue is, or just resubmit the entire package to avoid processing delays. Next slide, please. You must disclose any conflicts of interest or potential conflicts of interest. You should have a conflict of interest policy. Examples of potential conflicts of interest are business or properties owned by the board where work is to be done. Potential conflict of interest: members should not be part of the decision making. For example, a staff person should not be involved in approving salary raises paid by state operating funds. If you have any questions regarding conflicts of interest, please contact your regional project manager. Next slide, please. You are responsible for curing any default resulting from fraud or misappropriation of DHED funding. It is recommended that you have a cybersecurity protocol in place to prevent fraudulent activity that involves award funds. Next slide, please. We love to celebrate your successes with you. We really do. Please remember to invite us to any groundbreaking or ribbon cutting events you may have. We would like to have the option to send a representative. We can also choose to display a sign in the ceremonies to invite Secretary Day or any other DHED senior leadership. Use the form in the slide to request their presence. Next slide, please. Records should be kept for at least 3 years after close of the award, unless the award is a loan, recoverable grant, or grant loan combination, in which case documents must be maintained for the duration of the loan recoverable grant term, plus 3 years. Now we're going to talk about awardee non-compliance. The awardee is responsible for complying with all requirements as outlined in the award agreement. This includes to submit your required progress or quarterly reports on time, to provide evidence of the spent awards, among others. And there is also an expectation that you will respond to department-initiated correspondence in a timely manner. Failure to meet these requirements can put the award at risk for default and eventual termination, resulting in a recapture of award funding. Non-compliance and overall negative performance may impact other department awards, regardless of program. The awardee should demonstrate good stewardship of state funding. Next slide, please. Here we have the award management best practices. Please contact your regional project manager with any questions or concerns you may have. We'd rather you do that before you go ahead and take decisions that may not be under the scope of the award agreement. We highly, highly recommend that you contact your regional project manager. We're here to answer your questions and to assist you whenever needed. At the time of the award execution, you need to review any special conditions you may have. You need to, such as send your certificate of good standing with a signed award agreement, any loan documents that we may require. This is where you would send that documentation in. Prior to the first disbursement, you need to satisfy any special conditions that are contained within the award agreement. You need to do the MHT determination and site control evidence for all the addresses that you're submitting a request for. And prior to subsequent disbursements, you need to provide evidence for any advance funds. You need to be current with your quarterly reports. You need to make sure that all the special conditions have been met, and the MHT determination must be on record, and the site control evidence as well. Next. Consider a process for collecting and submitting address-related scope information. For example, in a facade improvement program, your application requires address, description of a scope of work, interior and exterior pictures, sustainable community check, proof of business owner lease or ownership. The packet can be submitted to satisfy several requirements all at once. And now we're going to talk about final monitoring and closeout. A final report is due within 45 days of project completion. Check the Exhibit C on your award agreement. If all funds are dispersed and evidence of advance funds have been received, the project may be considered complete. Final report is going to ask questions, additional questions and updates, including project, program outputs, and success indicators. The HED should be able to visit or monitor your program during the life of the award. The HED will be able to move forward with final monitoring and closeout once a final report has been approved. Final monitoring, I'm sorry, project portal support. No, you can go ahead and do the next slide. To get support with the project portal, please email our support team inbox, which is nrsystemsupport.dhed@maryland.gov. Next slide. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Any additional questions at this time? I see we had one question in the chat in regards to the link for the comptroller's office, and Garland Thomas already dropped that in the chat for those that need it. Thank you for that. Any additional question that you have? And again, I definitely just want to reiterate a lot of the things that you are required and needed to make sure that your award agreement is fully executed. Your project manager will be reaching out, giving you reminders specifically on those items that you need to make the process that much more easier. Everything is required to be submitted in the project portal besides the MHT documents, but everything else goes directly through the project portal. I see we do have a question from Alice.
Just very quickly, if you already have an account set up with the comptroller's office, you don't have to do it again, correct? If your organization already has ACH application in so that you get money directly either to yourself or to a vendor, you don't have to do that again.
You should be good, especially if you're set up and already received state funding. You should be okay. But again, I mean, you know, we can reach out to the project manager and just have them to confirm. We can take a look at your organization to make sure that on our end you are listed as eligible to receive wire payments, because again, we don't want any delays or no holdups. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Garland, you want to say something?
Yeah, the next question was, will the recording for the meeting be emailed to each of us individually? Normally what we do is we will place it on our website in the State Revitalization Program section of the DACD website, not only the PowerPoint, but the recording of this training as well, because we need to edit it, just make sure that everything is correct. And so if you give us a couple days to do that, we will, probably have your project managers reach out to you to let you know when it's available on the website.
Thanks for that clarity, Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions from anybody online? Olivia?
Oh, I don't have a question, but I have like 2 tips. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the first is, as you go through the process, please read the grant agreement, not just the exhibits, but the main body. I think you'll find that all of our, requirements are embedded in that document. And obviously it's in legalese. So if you need assistance understanding what the terms are, we do have a public facing policy guide that can assist with that. And always please feel free to reach out to your regional project manager. Sometimes we do get questions that are sometimes the answers are within the grant agreement. And so again, if you need help understanding what that is, please let us know. The other thing is if you're running a program, such as if you have a Maryland Facade Improvement Program award, or like a homeowner assistance award where you have an application as well as guideline documents, please send them to us so that we have a copy, and then we will also be reviewing them to ensure that that your guidelines can comply with the way that we need to be running the program. So sometimes we have instances where your guidelines might be more loose than what we actually are able to allow. And so we don't want to have those instances where there's a discrepancy between the two, and you're receiving applications and cannot fulfill those particular projects because on our side, they actually run up into different requirements or restrictions that we are unfortunately unable to fund. So again, please feel free to reach out to your regional project manager with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for those tips, Olivia. One additional thing I want to double down on is the compliance piece. It's super critical that you stay compliant. And how do you do that? Making sure that you actually submit all of your reporting, your quarterly reports, as well as final reports as required, making sure that all the proper documentation is submitted for your request for payments. So these are critical things, because if you're not compliant, it will hinder you from receiving existing funding for grants that you have been awarded, but it'll also hinder you from applying for additional grant opportunities across our state agencies. So please, please, please make sure that you are compliant with reporting, all of your legal documentations and things of that nature, so you can continue to have access to a lot of our great state resources. For any of the other PMs or ADs, do you have any other additional helpful tips that you want to share before we get ready to close out? And again, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat really quickly if you don't mind. Well, we do have Larry with his hand up, so we can let him go really quickly.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. We Larry stick together. I get it. Very quickly, when we submit something into the portal, do we automatically receive a confirmation or anything that tells us, yes, we've successfully received it?
Yes, is the short answer. You should receive a confirmation indicating that you successfully pushed whatever that document or what have you in the system. So one key thing is
Will that be an email or we just see it right there on the screen?
you should receive an email confirmation.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Question is the 1 o'clock training the same as this training? Yes, it is. It's the same training. We just actually kind of broke it down. The first training is more ran and operated by the Baltimore team. The 1 o'clock will be operated and presented more so by our statewide team. So everything outside of Baltimore. So Garland, Thomas, and his project managers will be doing that presentation at 1 o'clock. Okay. Any additional questions going once, going twice? We can give you 28 minutes of your time back because we was actually scheduled to 11:30. But if you don't have any additional questions, we want to be respectful of your time.
We got one more.
Okay.
How long will it take to receive the contract? Typically after you execute and sign on your end, and then we send to the secretary's office, the OS office, it could take anywhere from 30 probably to 45 days to see it through that process. And so they try to package the agreements kind of in groups so, you know, we can get mass signings when necessary. And we've kind of upgraded our signing system to see if we can execute faster. And so we've already, as a matter of fact, started the drafting process. Our legal team has been reviewing and looking at them. And so we're anticipating for some of you that you probably will be receiving your agreements, you know, within the next couple of weeks to begin your execution process on your end. The funds are not available to spend until July 1, nonetheless. And so, you know, we're trying to work within that time frame to get them done so you can begin to spend funds at the beginning of the fiscal year.
So just for some clarity, for FY26, the funds are available to spend because it's based on last July. For FY27, won't be available to July 1 of 2026. And just to add to what Garland mentioned, and thank you for answering that question, Garland, 30 to 45 days is pretty much the window if everything is packaged properly. We may run into some instances where after review, certain documentations need to be updated, need to be refreshed, and that may cause us a minor delay. But also it's crucial that you as the awardee, when your project manager reach out to you and say, look, we need an updated charitable campaign, a charitable registration form, or if we need a MOU, that you respond in a timely manner, because once the ball is in your court, legally we can't move forward without having these legal documents. So if you delay a week or 2 weeks, that's going to add a week or 2 weeks to how long it's going to take us to get the award agreement fully executed. But again, you know, if everything is properly submitted, 30 to 45 days is a realistic time frame to have everything completed. But your regional project manager will be working closely with you. They can give you updates and help to move your specific project along as quickly as possible. We did receive one more question. It says, if we do not have our executed agreement, we are not required to submit our first report until we do, correct? That is correct. Or do you still? No, so that's correct. You're not required to start providing reports until your agreement is fully executed. If your award agreement is not fully executed, the reporting requirement is not in effect into that point. This was amazing content and connectivity for me, and there can be challenges in the past with my devices not connecting. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I'm glad everything went well on your end. And again, you will be receiving copies of the presentation so you can be able to review as needed. Lastly, it says, so when can we spend? We can spend once the agreement is executed, even if it's before. So that is correct. So for FY26, the fiscal year starts in July 1 of 2025. So once your award agreement is fully executed, you can start drawing down on those funds. Okay, so that seems like that's all of our questions for today. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us for our statewide presentation. Thank you for all of my colleagues for your support, for your participation. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your project manager so we can provide as much guidance and technical assistance as possible. Have a great day and stay warm.
Hi, Shelby. Hi, everybody from NHS out there. I think I saw.